Pursuing a career in acting is not for the weak. Most actors don't fail, not because really lack of talent. Usually it has to do with a mindset. It is a mental thing. I think the mental aspect of acting is so much more strenuous than necessarily the day-to-day job portion of it. It's getting to the point where you're booked. It's getting to the point of where you're becoming financially successful. That's what tears actors up on a day-to-day basis. So I'm here to help you not make those mistakes. Let's get into it. According to SAG-AFTRA, only a very tiny percentage of actors make a living solely off of acting. So what does that mean? Most people who are actors or who are considered working actors are also doing other things, whether it's a side hustle or it's literally their main hustle. I can sit here and just think about the percentage of actors that I work with and I cast on my films that are still not full-time acting. They have jobs, they have lives, they have full-blown other careers besides acting, even though acting is their passion. I know a countless amount of people who have moved to LA because they wanted to pursue acting, and they're still working. Usually you hear people who are like waitresses and waiters or bartenders, and yeah, that's a thing. I think in today's time, a lot of the people I know do like Uber, they're doing rideshare for like, I don't know, Postmates, Uber Eats, and that's so they can stay flexible and still audition. There's people who have remote work or full-blown other businesses that they're running and operating. And that could be a lot on somebody mentally. Ultimately, your dream is to act. So that's what you actually want to do full time. And to be in the position where you can't do that, it can take a mental toll. In addition to that, not just a mental toll on you, what about how other people perceive you? Some people are embarrassed to tell people like, hey, I don't make enough money off of acting. Let's look at this person right here, right? He was on a major television show called Girlfriends. One of my favorite shows. I grew up on it like religiously. And he ended up finding himself just like working at a regular job. After the show went off, he just didn't get booked. He ended up having like some excessive weight gain and experiencing depression because that high of like being on a hit TV series is like shoom, like up here. And then the low is just like, woo, down here. Then you have people and family members and friends asking you like, yo, why are you here? I can give another example. This guy right here. I mean, we saw him on the Cosby Show, which was like huge at one point, right? To be working at a grocery store like that. And he said he was embarrassed by it a lot of times because people will walk up and be like, hey, aren't you that guy from that show? Or aren't you such and such from that show? And like, this is what happened. This is where he was at. And so that's just taxing. Good thing for him. Tyler Perry saw him and ended up putting him in some other stuff. And he's been working a lot more recently. He didn't give up. But like the mental toll on acting, it's just not for everybody. So what I suggest, right? Like, okay, well, how do we overcome that? Having balance and having realistic expectations. The second thing that gets people caught up is that they just try to go off of their natural talent, right? And think that's what's going to get them booked or get them in the door. And don't get me wrong, there are cases where a lot of people are zero casted. And you can look at my definition of what zero casting means. But on a majority basis, people who are working actors, people who I know on a personal level, who are constantly being booked, they have a technique. They have a sense of formal training. Not saying they all went to Juilliard, but they got training of some sort to help advance them and sustain their career. So that way, when it's time for them to get whatever character that they're getting, they're able to break down that character and apply their technique to become that character on screen. And that's a major key. Yeah, more likely than not, you'll get zero casted. Let's say you just look really good, right? Okay, cool. I think a lot of times when you're thinking of like comedic roles, right? There are comedians who pretty much get zero casted. You can tell they're acting themselves in the film. But even those people have training because they come from a stand-up comedy place or an improv place. They've put in work perfecting who they are, right? So that they can appear as who they are in these characters on screen. That's not willy-nilly. That takes some actual technique and some skill beyond it. The ones who are able to push past their quote unquote zero casting and get into serious acting, well, a lot of those comedic actors, that's like far and few. We've seen very little people really kind of transition. That doesn't mean you're not going to stay booked, right? But I'm just saying, if you want to get to the point where you're in the Academy Awards and all those people have gotten some either coaching or training at some point. So the other benefit of coaching and training is you're surrounding yourself around a community of people who are like-minded like you, who are in the process with you. You need people on your team that are going to root you on when you're not getting the audition, or who can give you actual feedback back to help set you up for success in the next audition. And having that sense of community, in whether it's a scene study class or even an online Zoom class, or if you decide to take one of our boot camps here, surround yourself around other people who are rooting for you. So when you do need to pick me up because you're sad about the process, or you're not getting where you want to go, or you need a sense of direction, you have that available as a resource. Earlier I mentioned it, but let's get into unrealistic expectations. So what does that even mean, right? Why? How is my expectations unrealistic? Shouldn't I believe in myself to achieve my dream? Yes. No one's saying you shouldn't believe in yourself to achieve your dreams. I am probably the definition of somebody who does that on a regular basis. But having realistic expectations, and especially when it comes to time, right, can help set you up to pace yourself for success. There are things that are in your control, which is how you show up, right? How much time you put in to prepare and how much work you put in to become a better actor. That is in your control. What is not in your control is who booked you, when they book you, how they book you, and hell, even sometimes how much money you get paid for that booking. That's not in your control. I think there's people from around the world, right? There's people from around the world who are watching this right now. And they're like, well, I would just want to pack up and I want to move to LA, or pack up and move to New York or Atlanta, which is a hot hub. Can you do that? Yes. Are there people who have done that and are able to execute and reach a certain level? Yes. Would I necessarily suggest you do that without a job in place, without a place to stay, without some type of plan to execute and in motion? No. No, I wouldn't. If anything, I would say that right now we have the opportunity to where you can start to get booked without even being in that city because of the EcoCast and because of the self-tape. So I would say you get your package together to the best of your ability and to start that process before you just up and move. I don't think that it's necessarily is necessary for you to be successful in the industry anymore to live in one of those places. I'll give you the example of Sierra Angelia, who's somebody that I've worked with on 1, 2, 3 movies now. She lives in Detroit and she books in LA, Atlanta, etc. She's been on shows. She's been in films and lead roles, co-star roles, you name it. She booking it right now. And a lot of that started because she showed up in her own town. Where there's many opportunities as in Atlanta or LA, no. But she showed up, she got her package together, and she got started. She did the work. She went to acting classes and got coaching. And that's what you can do right now. If you come to LA and say, I'm going to book a show in a year, is that realistic? There's so many variables when it comes to that. It's like, okay, I'm just keeping it real. What do you look like? There's one, like, are there roles for people? What's your nationality? People don't want to have that conversation. That's the truth. Like, there are a lack of roles for certain nationality on television, film. What are you trying to, what characters do you want to play or don't want to play? If you are like, hey, I'm a black girl right now in the year 2024, I'm a black girl right now and I want to get booked for $100 million film where I'm the lead and it's an action movie, right? I'd be like, okay, I love that. Realistic expectations is there's not a lot of roles for that right now. Yes, there are more, but there's not a lot of roles for that. So, like, how are we going to get there? What are we going to do in the meantime? I would suggest writing your own scripts, start making your own content, start pushing that so people can see that it's something that can be successful and that be bought. The other thing is stop waiting on Hollywood to book you and you start booking yourself. How? Don't necessarily need an agent or a manager to get started. Can that person help you get auditions? Can that person help you show up? For sure. If you have access to that, you have your package together. We'll make a whole nother video about that. Comment agent and manager in the comments below if you want me to make a video about agents and managers, right? But you don't have to wait. You can self-submit. I have a whole nother video talking about 10 sites where you can self-submit yourself. So stop waiting. Show up for music videos. Show up for student films. Hell, when you're starting, show up for free. Get your experience because you need to build your reel, because that reel that you create and that resume that you create, that's what's going to get you on those paid sets. So do the work, have realistic expectations, and set tangible things. Like say, I'm going to go on a certain amount of auditions this year. Like, okay, great. That means if I have my package together, if there are people who are looking for these type of roles, then I'm going to get on a certain type of auditions. That's a lot more realistic than I'm going to book A, B, and C, and D when I just got started. Not saying it can't happen, but I don't want you to set yourself up for that. I think that if you had a 5-year plan as an actor or actress and you had goals on getting on a TV show, co-star, if you put in the work, that could happen. Are you working your dream like you're working a full-time job? If you're not doing that, then that's what's going to happen with your acting career. It's going to become your side job, not your full-time job. You want it to be your full-time job. You need to work acting like a 9 to 5. How much energy do you put in to 9 to 5 every day? 8 hours. So at bare minimum, you should be doing half of that, 4 hours. How can I put in 4 hours into acting every day? Reading acting books, right? Studying other great actors. These are all things you can do at home. Take scenes, right, that you have from your favorite movies or the characters that you want to portray. Take those and turn them into self-tapes. Turn it into your acting coach or your acting peer, and then have them critique you and see how you can get better. Work on certain aspects of your acting performance. Is it getting deep emotions? Is that what we're working on this week or this month? Is it finding comedic moments? Is it tapping into that anger? Work on specific things on a consistent basis. This is part of being in a scene study class, because at least at a bare minimum, you know that you have once a week, you're going to show up and you're going to put in time to work on acting. Work it like you want it. And if you don't work it like you want it, you're going to get the results that you put into it. If you do things willy-nilly, you get willy-nilly results. And that just is what it is. So I think a lot of times there are people who say they want to act. There are people who they get an agent or manager and they just submit them, and you're leaving it up to somebody else versus doing everything in your power to be on set, be on set in some capacity. Even if you're a PA on set, maybe you just need to get on a bigger set so you can understand how it works, so you can get up close and personal to see, why are these people getting booked versus me? If you've never seen it, then maybe you don't know the difference. Because I've seen the difference up close and personal between a 20-year vet, somebody who's been on a sitcom or major films, versus a green actor and actress, how they show up, how they prepare, how they do each take the same. Unless you give them a director's note, then they do something different. So there's a reason. Those are the people who are working it like a full-time job. They're masters at their craft. Become a master at the craft. Just like if you want to pick up the guitar, just like if you wanted to start singing, just like if you wanted to play a sport, how much time are you going to put into that? Thousands of hours. And you need to have that same mentality towards acting. I'm a firm believer, if you can do the work yourself, you can put yourself in the position to win. But at the same time, I just keep it a buck. Sometimes it's not what you know, it is who you know. right? And so I think a lot of people get this twisted, right? A lot of the times people are like, oh, okay, networking. Like you should go and network with Steven Spielberg. He's probably not talking to you unless you're a niece, nephew, or somebody, family member or something like that. And you might get the meeting with Steven Spielberg. You need to network on your level. You need to be building. If we look at a great example of this is Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They started off on the same level. They said, hey man, we want to do this acting thing over here. I want to do this directing thing too. And this writing thing. Since we both starting off, let's do it together. That's the best way to do it because ain't nobody got no money. Ain't nobody making no money. You don't have to worry about costs. None of that. It's just, we going to write this script together. We going to figure out, we going to find some other buddies who have a camera. We going to find somebody else who got a microphone, somebody else who know lights, and we going to all show up and put this stuff together. That's how you need to network, right? It's from the ground up. Not, yes, reach for the skies. If you can get that person, great. Don't feel no type of way if you don't get a response from that person. I think a lot of people have that twisted. They're trying to get the big fish instead of making the big fish come to you. And once the big fish comes to you, then, man, because you built it from the ground up. Look at people like Issa Rae. She started off on YouTube, started putting her stuff up on YouTube and built her own fan base. And the network came to her. Now, that may not be the path for everybody, but my point is you need to make key connections. And those key connections are usually on your level. Now, what is a great idea is to get in front of casting directors, right? Get in front of casting directors and find out what they're looking for. Find a mentor who knows a casting director. Find agents and managers once you build your portfolio to get you in the room. Don't just willy-nilly choose an agent and manager. Choose somebody who's specific, who's career mapping the way that you want to go. And then they'll introduce you to other people. Those are the connections that you need. And what a lot of people don't want to talk about, but this is real deal Holyfield right here. Real deal Holyfield is social media. The power of social media is, you came here because we're on a social media platform. You found out about this because we're on social media, right? So there are other people looking for people with social media. There are people who get booked, and I've done that on my own films because they have social media followings. Yes, they can act as well, but they have social media followings, and that could be the thing that pushes you over the edge. Right? That could be your thing. Showing your personality on there, building your fan base on there can set you apart from the rest. And the last thing that really tears people up, I mean, it just be tearing people up, is rejection. That is a huge portion of acting. You're going to get 99 no's before you get one yes, right? So how do you take that no and how do you process the no? Most people process the rejection of acting as, a referendum on themselves as a person. And it's really not. It really sometimes has nothing to do with it. You could have been dope and it was just somebody else who fit that character for the part better. And it happens a lot of times, especially the bigger the roles you get. I mean, everybody's going after the same role. Only one person can get it. And the why behind it don't really be having anything to do with you. Especially if you're a great actor or actress. You have the look. You have all these things. You have the resume, right? And that might not have nothing to do with you. Why you didn't get that part. It was just meant for that person at that time. And so the advice that I've been giving and the advice that I give to everybody else is stop focusing on booking the role. Start focusing on booking the room. So I'll say it again so you can catch it. Stop focusing on booking the role. Start focusing on booking the room. Well, Kennedy, what does that mean? Well, what that means is this. If you book the room, all the people in the room is going to remember you. And they're going to be like, hey, this person's not right for this, but I'm going to keep in mind for something else. I've done that on several occasions. We're like, not this one. Maybe I got to bring them in 2-3 times before I find the part, but I'm going to keep bringing you in until I find the part that is actually meant for you because you booked the room. So what does booking the room looks like? Booking the room is coming to the self-tape or the audition, bringing your thing to it. So I always give the example of Denzel Washington, Will Smith. As we know, Denzel Washington was in Training Day. But what if Will Smith was in Training Day? It still would have been a dope movie, but it would have been a totally different movie because they are two different actors. They have two different tastes, but they're both Academy Award winning actors, right? Top tier, the cream de la cream of acting, but they bring something different to the table. So that's what I'm saying. You need to bring what you bring to the audition. And when you bring what you bring to the audition, you're going to book that room. And if it's not that, then it'll be something else and something else and something else. And so I think you focus on that. Because when those rejections hit, and boy, they can hit, and sometimes it'll be 2, 3 in a day, right? If you just not getting called back for whatever reason. If you know you were prepared, you've been in classes, you've been training, you feel like you match the look of the role that they're going for, then you just have the mindset of keep showing up and stop waiting on Hollywood to book you. We talked about this. You book yourself. If you have a story you want to make or a character you want to play, write that puppy yourself. Shoot it yourself. Shoot your own feature film. You can do it. I literally have videos showing you how you can do it. Team up with other people around you to make the story that you want to make. Put that mess on AVOD. See if it gets picked up by a larger platform. Maybe you get some decent actors in there too. Don't be afraid to show up though. For sure, don't be afraid to show up. So I hope this video gave you some insight on where most actors fail in their career. I don't want you to make the same mistakes. Please ask me some questions in the comments below on things that you want help with. I'm happy to make entire videos about that. Be sure to check out all the free resources that we have available on our site. Hit the like button, sub button, bell button. You gotta go.